Yo, good evening, my friends. Good evening. How are you guys doing? Everyone doing all right? See a few of you already in the chat. Always nice to see. See a few of you already liked the video. Also nice to see. Appreciate that. Oh, I was playing myself on the second monitor. That should be fixed. So yeah. How are you guys doing? We had some news. We had some positive news. We've had a lot of positive news really in the last few weeks. Not too much has happened price-wise. Like it's not been reflected in price, but yeah, we've had good news and we'll talk about it. In general, TLDR for the people that just want to have like a 5-second overview. My base case, right? So the Grayscale won against the SEC yesterday, right? My base case is like that's a good thing. Improves the chances of an ETF being approved in general by quite a bit, in my opinion. The problem is that we're gonna get a decision relatively soon on the BlackRock ETF. It's the only one that really matters. And I think that one is going to be delayed. So we're in this shitty situation where we pumped because of good news. But more, to me anyway, more likely than not, we're going to get delay. Is that even the word? Whatever the BlackRock ETF is probably going to be delayed. And I think that could lead to dump. So good news overall. Longer term, short term, I don't know. And I think that's basically the TLDR. So if it just came for the TLDR, that's the situation right now. Anyway, before we start the show properly, shout out to WooX for sponsoring the show. They're excellent partners, a pleasure to work with, and they keep working on making their exchange better and better every day. It's nice to see. It's nice to kind of have a say too. So if you have any kind of whatever recommendations, like if you're trading there and you don't like something or you think something could be done better, you can either message them because they're very responsive or just message me or Cred and we'll just pass it on to the team. And quite a few things have changed over the last few weeks to months, according to feedback that we've given. So that's quite nice. But yeah, that's that. That's the whole thing done. I think the TLDR covers most of it, honestly, but we'll still talk a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's just the situation is basically that we're in between good and bad news, basically. And that's my view. Now, whether that's actually true or not, because I could be completely off and the ETF could be approved tomorrow and then we're going to pump. But in my eyes, it'd be too much of an embarrassment for the SEC if they didn't get it delayed. Cannot take a major L against Ripple, then take a major L against Grayscale, and then roll over. I mean, they can, but to me, it seems unlikely. So that's kind of my going rate, and that would erase most of yesterday, especially given that a bunch of people are now cheerleadering on, kind of like got themselves into a position of not necessarily strength, right? Because if you long the top 28K or whatever, you're not doing so great. And I think that's why we're having a little bit of weakness today, because people are realizing that, right? So yesterday was all hype, and today is a little bit of a, oh, but what if kind of moment. And basically gonna see. But the good thing about yesterday is that the ETF seems to be pretty much a done deal to me. Like there's a very, very slim chance that it's just going to be denied. I think it's going to be delayed until it's approved. That's kind of my base case. So like before I was like, okay, like roughly in my head, it was 60% delayed, 20% denied, 20% approved. And now it's just like, okay, we have 70%, like, or like, let's say 60% delayed, 30% that it's approved, and 10% that it's denied. In my head, anyway. And those figures don't mean anything because I don't have any edge in that. There's better people to kind of listen to in that regard. But yeah, it's good news. It's just curious timing because, like I said, if we get a delay, we're probably going to retrace most of the scandal. But yeah, we'll talk about the TA. We'll talk about the TA and then see where that is at, and then we can come back to that whole ETF shenanigans. Any thoughts on the BitBoy drama? No, not really. I mean, he's got me blocked, or Dave got me blocked, or whatever. Didn't see it, don't care. I mean, I did see it, but don't care. Anyone that's having problems with drugs, I hope they get off of them, no matter how much I dislike them, right? And I really don't like the guy, but I wish him the best recovery on that front. Like, even if people, in my opinion, deserve to go to jail for like some of the things that they've done, I still hope that he gets better if that whole drug thing is actually true. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see the point in like jumping on him now. Don, what's your gut telling you on where we go next? My gut is telling me that we're going to retrace this move all over the weekend. But that is entirely reliant on basically the outcome of the ETF, which is shitty, right? It doesn't really help me because that's not where my strength is in trading. That's why I'm not trading. I'm very, very, like I have zero motivation to trade this. Like this is not super, super exciting to me. Anyway, the weekly time frame is, I mean, we still have this fake out, this nasty fake out to the upside, right? This is the range high. We had one fake out. We had another one based on the BlackRock ETF news. We failed it, had a bearish retest, broke down massively, and now we've had a little bit of a bounce, right? Just zooming out, there's really not that much there. Still very clearly bearish on the technicals. And you could even, and this is something that we have in the newsletter, trletter.com, it's free if you want to sign up. Cred and I write a newsletter every week. Most of the weeks anyway, and we have this resistance in there. I actually don't dislike it. I don't have it on my chart because am I gonna short this? Not really, right? The one that was important was 30k. When we lost that, I was like, okay, it's screwed for now. So I don't have this, but I like it as a resistance, right? And that's kind of what we're battling with right now. And what we're rallying into on good news. And it would be bad if that's a bearish retest. Yeah, the problem with the weekly time frame is that we're like very, very far from any bullish confirmation or from where the market would turn bearish, right? The market turns bearish, in my opinion, below 20K. The best kind of areas to do business in on high time frames is usually like when you have already a drop, right? Like, you obviously, like if you have an up only chart and you're like, okay, I want to do business on a high time frame level, let me just line up where the chart would be bearish and then go from there. That doesn't really help you, right? Like during up only times, it's not how you should be trading. But during choppy times like this, right, what you look at basically is where does the chart turn massively bullish and where does the chart turn massively bearish, right? And those are usually the areas that you find support and resistance in. So for example, if you just look at this, this is the previous range that we had, the all-time high range, right, in here. Where did we get rejected, right? It was exactly at the boundary of that previous all-time high range. The market would have turned massively bullish if it broke out there. That's how you that's where you find resistance when the market's not when the market's choppy. Where you're gonna find support when the market is shit or choppy or whatever you want to call it. You're gonna find it where the market is gonna turn massively bearish if you lose the level, right? So this level was very important to hold for the bears. This level is very important to hold for the bulls. Those are the two areas that make sense to trade, in my opinion, because they mean something. If you are bearish at 30, 31K, which we were, right? Like we talked about it. You have a flip, like you can flip bullish above 30, 35, 36, right? You have, like you're close enough to where the market, like you can see that the market environment is going to change if your level is broken. So you have that level close enough so you don't miss out on too much. It's the same thing to the downside, where you just have you have a really good setup and you don't lose too much if you're wrong, because let's say you get the 20K long, whatever, if it breaks below 20 significantly, goes towards like 17K, then you're out. And it's the same here, right? Like if it would have went to 35, you would have been out. And that's kind of how I like to trade these shitty ranges. And that means that we're right where I don't want to do business. So, someone said, "Where can we donate for to get Don a better microphone?" You guys are like, this is a troll at this point. I have one of the best microphones you can have, but yeah, maybe it's not set up right, but I'm pretty sure like 90% of the people that comment are like, it's all good, and then there's 10% that are just completely losing the shit every single week, and it's a running gag at this point, I think. Hi Dawn, thank you for everything you have done. My brother and I lost everything we had in FTX, and he ended up taking his life. But following you, I have been able to help support his wife and son. Jesus Christ, bro. My condolences. That's horrendous. It is low volume-wise. It's the exact same as it usually is. But I think it depends on what you're watching on. But yeah, it's basically on as loud as it can be. And I'm too lazy to figure out what I could do. But maybe, I mean, I've figured, like I've moved some things around on it. And that seems to have done like a little bit of a job. Like it's been better. People have been happy. So sorry if you're not one of them. Anyway, watched the whole apocalyptic live stream from March 2020 a few days ago. Too funny. Yeah, that one was special. I haven't actually watched it back. I don't have the time. It's like 2 hours long, and I probably say like a bunch of garbage because I mean I was stressed out, obviously. But it's a good times. Bitcoin 20K before ETF approved. And that's the thing, right? So let's go back to the technicals. We're in this shitty situation where I don't want to do business here, right? But also, like, are we gonna get 20K right before an ETF is gonna come around? Because, I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's gonna be the case. And that's a pretty hard question to answer, right? So, I don't know the answer to it. If the S&P nukes, we will, yes. But if the S&P keeps on being decent, then yeah, probably not. Where can I find the March 2020 stream? I might upload it on this channel. I'll talk with Cred about it. If it's not too horrendous. And the problem is I'm too lazy to watch it back. So I don't know what I said, but it's a while ago. Don, what if the ETF is approved? What price action do we see then? If the ETF was approved, I think we'd just see like a candle like this. Pretty much just straight up like 10-20% candle. And the aftermath would be interesting. But you would basically get the same thing that we had here. So if you look on the 5-minute chart, right, you had the Grayscale news come in, and that was the result. You actually had quite a bit of time to buy in. I wasn't on the computer, so I didn't. And I don't even know if I would have. Probably I would have if I saw it immediately. But yeah, for me, I don't know why, but there's zero urgency. That might be bullish, right? I usually am itching to do something. Right now, I have zero urgency to do anything. Don, yesterday you tweeted that you're probably not going to be excitedly bullish for another 2 to 3 years. Can you go more into detail on what you're thinking there? The market just feels like that. Like in general, the situation that we are in right now feels like we're gonna range for a long time. So my gut feeling is we're gonna range much longer than people think. I could see us spend like a whole cycle in between like 18 and 35k, like a whole 4-year cycle. Wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, I'm in team crab basically. The downtrend from 31.8k was Elon selling. I don't know. I don't have any info on that. But yeah, if like the thing is, like if we nuke and we get the ETF approved, I like in general, like if we get a delay, we go to 20k, then we get the ETF approved, we could come all the way back up, and I think this could literally just go like this. And okay, now you're just exaggerating. I mean, given how money has become more and more scarce in this world, right? Like we had money, everyone was just like, okay, there's unlimited money. And now it's the opposite, right? Like there's less and less money in the markets. It just makes sense to, like, I think you're bullish if you're expecting sideways. But yeah, I mean, I changed my mind very quickly. If I see something that I like, I will completely jump on board. But my feeling is it's going to be a sideways market. How much tax do you pay for trading perps in Germany? You can pay unlimited, Peter. I don't know if you're asking because you are German, but if you're German and you're trading perps, you really need to read into why that can be a really bad idea. There's a reason why I don't do it, because you can literally be taxed unlimited, as in like 200% of your gains, 300% of your gains. So cannot recommend. Are we screwed if we're hoping to make some money trading Bitcoin and ETH this year then? I mean, you can make money when it's going sideways, and I could be wrong. Like there's 2 ways to to make money. But for me, I mean, there's a reason why I've been moving out of trading in the last few months, and ever since I have, the market's been shit, right? Like I sold here, and I bought back here and sold back here, right? And those have been like the last few trades of mine, and it's been shit in between. But yeah, like in general, with money being as tight as it is, expecting the same kind of environment or the same kind of bullishness that we've had in the past in something like crypto seems far-fetched to me. But I could be completely wrong, and I'm not a macro guy, right? So yeah, I'll tell you when I change my mind, and you should make your own mind up anyway. consolidation for the rest of the year. Death by boredom, basically, yes. But that's how the weekly looks right now, right? As in, it looks like we're in a range roughly in here, and that's gonna probably stay that way until we get the ETF approval. And my base case for the ETF approval, and this is completely pulled out of my ass, so take it with a grain of salt, is next year, as in like in 6 months maybe. 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there. I'd be shocked by anything before then. And in 3 to 6 months, you can crush the hopes and dreams of people that want the ETF to happen quite a few times, right? And you can liquidate a bunch of people that try to hop onto the ETF train a couple of times too. So until that actually happens, I'm gonna be defensive. Yes, I am German and trading perps on Bybit, but I guess if you're trading with small size, you don't have to pay that much. So basically, and sorry for everyone that isn't German, that is not interested in how this works. Basically, if you're trading perps, right, there's a maximum amount of losses that you can carry over, right? I think it's 10,000. So let's say you make 100,000 and you lose 95,000, right? You're gonna have to pay taxes on the 100,000, and you cannot subtract the losses basically. So you can get there really, really quickly into like a situation where you're completely fucked, even if you trade small balances. So if your volume is 10 million, but you only made $10, there's a good chance that you still owe taxes in the million range. So do read into the tax laws if you're trading in a country where there's like problems with it. And Germany is one of them. And that's not nice. But I think there's going to be a lawsuit against it. But that might take years. So got to be careful. That's why, and you can avoid it if you're from Germany, if you can avoid it by trading spot. As in, you can trade spot with leverage. It's all just CFDs that you cannot do. That's crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely fucked. And it's like, and this is something that you have to be very careful of, no matter what you do. Like you need to know the tax rules and whatever very, very well in wherever you are from, because there's a few tax rules like this all over the world that can fuck you over. ETFs won't save a market that has no excess money. I do agree with that. Like if we go to 20K and we get an ETF, I don't think we go back above like 35K. I think we would go back to 30K maybe. And then like I think in general the ETF will have a massive pump at the start of it, because people have been waiting for it, and everyone that's in crypto is basically sitting there ready to deploy the moment that happens. But they're gonna be surprised at how little inflow there's actually going to be right from the get-go, but there will be inflows and they will pick up. So basically, sharp move up from the point of where the ETF is approved, then you get a liquidation dip, and then you would expect something like this, where it's slowly walking up and people are surprised why it's taking so long. Just talk to a German tax consultant, but like what you said makes this tax consultant sound like shit. I mean, I'm not a tax consultant. You shouldn't take my advice over someone that is actually a professional in it. But yeah. So will you now devote your time to trading stocks, Don? No, I'm just not going to trade anything until I like the markets again. But yeah, this is the daily time frame right now. And that's the one it's actually the only time frame that's looking okay. Just at face value, right? Ignoring everything that's going to happen. We broke resistance and we're retesting it right now. So this is the only decent looking chart, right? So we're bullishly retesting support that was previously resistance. like I said, the problem is if we get an ETF delayed tomorrow, that's not going to do shit. That's why in general, the chart doesn't really matter too much when you have all these narratives floating around in these news, right? The same, like I saw a bunch of people be like, oh, this was in the charts. I mean, you're on crack. This is not how this works. It was not in the chart. This is a news-based pump. And wherever that stops, basically where people have been done getting liquidated, right? Or where people are running out of money to buy into the hype. Like I see a bunch of people just completely delusional, trying to like be like, oh, this was in the charts. I called it whatever. What you called is the Grayscale outcome, and that's not something that you're gonna see on the chart. Not when the enemy, like the opposing party, is the SEC. Like there's very unlikely gonna be insider trading that you can actually detect. And that is also why there was no real obvious kind of like scammy movement coming into the news, right? It's not like this was front running it. You had the news come in and then you had a candle to the heavens. There's I don't know where people get their reasoning from, but that's not how it works. Like you can say like, hey, you should have longed because this was a good area to long. And I mean, I'm down with that. But if you're like, oh yeah, but I saw this pump coming, it's the wrong person to listen to, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, the daily is the only chart that looks decent. We retested support. That needs to hold. If we lose it, that's very, very bad. That's another news event that we would have faded. Not something you want to see. So basically, you could, if you wanted to, and I'm not going to do anything, just for your info. Like I'm literally not going to trade this, but you could buy this and then dip on a close below daily support if you're just trading the technicals. In my opinion, that would be a decent trade if we didn't have the whole ETF thing on the horizon. And that just makes it a shitty trade because I think there's... the TA is not going to work in your favor. Sometimes you just have to concede and be like, hey, there's other things that are more important right now than my lines on the chart. And until that changes, I have very little edge. And then you can just chill. And at some point, it's gonna change again, especially if it's so clearly yes and no kind of things. Like, are we going to have an ETF? Yes, no, delay. No would be bad, would drive price massively down. Delay would drive price down. Yes would make price go up. Like that's clear outcomes, right? And when you have that, you're speculating on this, especially if you have this clear timeline. And we're gonna get a decision relatively soon. So. Don, if you had a computer yesterday and you bought when news dropped, would you have TP'd by now? I would have TP'd quite a while ago, yes. I got, basically we had this pump candle, and during this consolidation, I was already like, okay, this is not something you want to necessarily buy. And whenever I see this, like on the low time frames, when you have a news pump like this, and you start going sideways and you get a shitty push up, that's usually what I try to sell. And if I didn't get this to sell, I would have sold this. And then just waited and seen. Especially, like I said, so for me, like I was actually considering yesterday while this was pumping, whether I wanted to short it or not. But then I was like, I'm just not gonna trade. But I wanted to fade this pretty much immediately. And I think there's a really, really high chance that we're gonna be trading back below 25.9K over the weekend if we get any kind of ETF delay. So if I was actively trading, I would have actually tried to catch the short and then put my stop loss somewhere in this region here and try to target for maybe 25.1. So that would have been the short the trade that I would have been more interested in. But I don't like any of it because if there's an ETF approval and I'm short and I'm not in the computer, and with my stop loss above 28, I might slip all the way to 29 or even higher. in that candle. I'm not really interested in that. He simply would have TP'd the top. I mean, the reason why I say I would have TP'd the top if I caught it is because I wanted to short the top. And if I want to short the top, I will most definitely not hold a long position. So, yeah. But I didn't take any of those trades, so nothing of that matters, right? But if you ask me for my opinion, I would be out of the trade for a long time. Do you think people generally expect it to be approved Friday? I think delay could be priced in. I don't think it's priced in. I think people are going to be shocked. But could be. Could very well be. If you get a delay and price doesn't move, that's very bullish. So that's basically the only thing that you can... I think that's the most info you can get out of the market. How does it react to... If you get a no, right? As in like a denial, and we don't go back below 26K, and that'd be massively bullish. In my head, that's a 0.1% chance of that happening, right? If we get like a delay and we don't go back below 26K, that'd be massively bullish. I think that's like for a delay, there's like a 5% chance of that happening, right? And if we get an approval and now we have to flip the script, obviously, because that's clearly bullish, right? If you get approval and we cannot get back above 29K, and that'd be massively bearish, right? So basically, if you get approval, it's bullish until we struggle with 29K, which I don't think would happen. If we get delay or denial, you just kind of look how price moves. Wouldn't a delay increase chances of approval? Yes, but people are dumb. And that would actually be an interesting spot to buy, right? So if we get a delay and this dumps massively, I might actually be interested in buying, because at that point, people are just going to be dumb. Like, that's just a dumb trade to take. Like, let's say we trade into 25, 24, straight off of a delay. I could see myself buy that if I get to. Just because it's a dumb trade to take. Like, anyone that's selling down there because of a delay is an idiot. The only thing that could bail those people out is if the S&P took a nosedive with them, which honestly, not necessarily the most unlikely, given where the S&P is trading at right now. But like, yeah, the S&P is a little bit of a strong one. I'm gonna be interested to see how this closes, because right now it actually it's looking like it's trading quite bullish. And it's quite funny because look, we've had a bunch of good news on Bitcoin and the S&P is actually looking stronger still. Mean reverted when people get liquidated on purpose, basically. Yeah, but that's all there is to it, really. I don't have any extra edge. Like, as sad as that sounds, like I cannot give really good advice because I'm not a news trader. I trade basically on the info that the news give me rather than predicting the news, right? Like, I get bearish news and price doesn't do anything to the downside. That tells me something about the market, right? But I don't position myself before the news hit. I very rarely do this. Sometimes I'm pretty certain with, for example, the XRP case, I was like, okay, that's gonna go well. I'm pretty sure. And that worked out quite well. It's all the way back now, but it worked out quite well. Not that I didn't even take this, but I got basically a bunch of the pumps along the way, like this pump. And I think I got this pump too. I got two. I don't know. I don't remember if it was this one and that one or like whatever. Made a bunch of percent on this. So sometimes I do it, but right now for me, like if I had to take a trade based on news that aren't out yet, I think the delay is the most likely. So that would be down. So I would be shorting. Final approval deadline is April next year. Why would they approve it before? No reason. In my opinion, yeah, exactly. That's basically where my head's at. That's why I said like 6 months. That's roughly taking us, not quite, but roughly taking us into the April kind of timeline. And I think in general, that would make it look much better. So like the SEC can kind of save face on all of this. Still think 16K not coming. Yeah, don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, that's Bitcoin. For me, like if you get to buy 20K, you do. If you get a stupid dump off of an ETF denial, you can at least play the mini reversion, as in like, let's say it dumps towards like 25, 24, 23 maybe. I think it's going to pump back to 26. So that's going to be a trade. Otherwise, it's kind of like shitty. If you get an approval, you just buy. As long as the price hasn't moved more than 10%, I think that's a decent buy. And then with regards to ETH looks really shit. Obviously doesn't look too bad on the ETH-USD pair because everything went up yesterday, but the ETH-BTC pair looks kind of shit. It's a downtrend. I think that needs to go lower. And given that basically the only thing keeping the market afloat right now is a Bitcoin ETF, there's no ETH in that Bitcoin ETF, right? And that just basically means that you're gonna see relative weakness on ETH until a new narrative is found for ETH. And right now, I just don't see it. Like it's a clear downtrend, and making new lows as we go. And yeah, I want to see this revisit my line down here, and whether that be after sideways here for a while or whether that's going to be like a straight up dump, I don't really care. The longer this takes, the more bullish I'm going to be on ETH. But like if it doesn't move from this price point, it would have to go sideways against Bitcoin for 430 days to reach the uptrend line. This is where it comes from. That's where I would be interested in buying. So needs to go quite a bit lower for me to consider ETH. And yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of sweet if it just went sideways and then dumped into 0.057. That'd be double support. But we'll see. But at this price point, not really interesting. ETH ETF isn't a narrative cooking in there. There is, but that's going to be after. Like you get the Bitcoin ETF, you get it approved, a bunch of people are buying it, it goes up, and then people are like, oh, but we have a Bitcoin ETF, what's going to be next? And then you can play the narrative on ETH, but you cannot be like, okay, there's a Bitcoin ETF coming, maybe, so let me buy ETH, because there's going to be after Bitcoin ETF, there's going to be an ETH ETF. That's too far-fetched. Like that's too far out, in my opinion. ETH futures ETF is before Bitcoin though. Yeah, but futures ETF has zero impact. We've had a million of Bitcoin ETF, future ETFs, and they have done zero to price. Generally, futures ETFs don't matter. So there you go. And then with regards to other altcoins, everything just looks like shit. The only thing that I could find that looks somewhat decent is Bitcoin Cash, and that looks like shit too. Yeah, I mean, I actually like the Bitcoin Cash chart. Like you could play a higher low here, but fuck no, it's Bitcoin Cash. And then you look through the rest. Litecoin still horrendous. We talked about it because of the halving. Like that's not a buy. Solana is one of the better ones, but that's been underperforming in the recent days and needs to go higher before it's interesting. Dogecoin, a few people I've been kind of seeing a few people chill it. This is the chart right now, Doge versus the dollar, and that's a descending triangle. Now, I'm not a pattern nerd, but in general, the trend is pretty clear. That's not the best look, especially that you would think that even if we get a Bitcoin ETF, altcoins are going to underperform by and large, unless they have a narrative. And maybe you get an Elon tweet or whatever that's going to put this in the ring again. But yeah, for me, this chart is just too bad. I'm not going to buy it. And then you can go through everything. XRP, full retrace, their court winnings. That's not a great thing. Atom, sitting at range low. Like you could argue buying this, but do you want to rebuy this range low? I don't know. So like the entire market looks like shit, basically. I've seen a bunch of people chill Link. That's starting to break the supports on the Bitcoin pair, and is doing, after it's reclaimed the range, doing very poorly considering it did so, which just starts looking like it's weakness rather than strength. Right now, this is one of the ones where you actually have a setup. You could buy this and have like a trade where you have a stop loss below the low, but I think that's very likely to stop you out and make new lows. So that's like a little bit of a shitty one. But if you think that crypto is going to be bullish, at least you have a tight invalidation here. So that's that. Like I can scroll through all of these. It's all garbage, right? It's all kind of pushing lower. Not doing so great. Don, what did you mean by spot leverage trading? Can you explain? Or at what exchanges can you trade this way? So basically what you do, like I'm not the best explaining stuff, but basically how this works is that you take a loan in USDC or USDT usually, and then you can buy actual physical coins with it. You can do that. The most prominent one is Bitfinex. You can just basically lever up, buy Bitcoin by borrowing USDT, USDC, whatever, with the Bitcoin that you have, or with the USDT, USDC that you have. And then you can trade that way. And given you are getting the Bitcoin delivered to you, it's not a CFD as a contract for difference, right? And that's what makes a lot of, gives you a lot of headaches. Another one is Woo. So I've been trading that contract on Woo, for example. That's how I made the leaderboard account, if I remember correctly. Pretty sure I did that. Oh yeah, I did the perp trading on Bybit, and then I was like, I'm being dumb because I'm gonna have to pay a million in taxes, and then I switched to that. Do you think the average pleb should just trade tech stocks instead? I think the average pleb should not be trading anything right now, but I could be wrong on that front. But I think the easy times in trading are mostly done for a while. Money is less free-flowing now, and that just means that conditions are worse. I always tune in when Don isn't interesting, as in every time. I don't know, like there's not that much to talk about right now that is too interesting. But apparently some of you like it, because 104 people liked the video, so I'm guessing 104 people like whatever the fuck I'm talking about, which is surprising, but I appreciate it. I've been trading for around 3 years now, but I haven't made it yet. I really am driven to succeed, but now I'm wondering if I should quit. Don would like some advice. I mean, I cannot give you that advice. I'm sorry. Like, depending on how you're doing, depending on how you like it, depending on if you have like an aptitude for it or not. Like, there's too many variables, and I don't know any of them. To be honest, I thought this was a superconductor account. That would have been so sick if that actually turned out to be true. Got rug pulled on the superconductor thing. That would have been a very great narrative to trade. I'm glad you're still motivated to do the stream, Don. I'm glad you're still motivated to come around. I mean, I like any of these days, I'm gonna talk with 10 people if this continues. So if the trade goes against you, you have to deposit new cash to pay off the loan. So basically, it works the exact same way. So you have USDT here. That's your bag, and then you can take a trade with that as your collateral. Like basically, let's say you have 10 USDT here, right? And you can borrow basically 100 USDT. as in you use 10x leverage. And if it goes against you and it moves 10% against you, they're just going to keep your shit. But the difference, and the difference is like quite tiny if you just think about it, is basically, I mean, it is quite a difference, but it seems a little bit marginal when you actually think about it. But the difference is that in this case, you borrow those, like you borrow these 100 USDT, and then you buy Bitcoin with it that you actually have. And when you're trading perps, you actually don't have the Bitcoin. You have a position, but you don't have the Bitcoin. It's basically physical delivery. I'm not an expert in anything of that sort, so you shouldn't be asking me about it, because I'm the worst person to ask to explain this kind of thing, these kind of things, because I don't understand half of it. But that's the gist of it. What does it mean you were on the leaderboard, like top 3? I created an account 3 weeks ago and it shows I'm ranked 20. I don't think there's more than 50 people trading. It depends on how you look at it. Like their leaderboard is a little bit janky. Let me see if I can do, like, if I can get on the exchange without logging in, because I don't have the logins on this account. Yes. So there's the leaderboard, right? And you can, like, there's different tabs, and then you can choose which kind of days you want, what you're looking for. I wonder where I am now. So on this, look, last 90 days, P&L, that's me. I just haven't been trading. You can see that I stopped trading. But there you go. I'm actually top 1. Cool. Didn't know. But yeah, it was like just a fun side project. But there you go. I don't think I show on the 1 year because it's the account doesn't exist. Like I almost have the account for 1 year, but not quite. But yeah, there you go. There's quite a few people trading. It's just the market's been quite dead. So yeah. And this is spot and margin. Futures trading is obviously different. Like more people trade futures. But yeah, there you go. That's that. For perps, you pay funding. For a funding fee. For spot leverage, you pay interest. Yes. So basically, if you trade spot leverage, there's times where it can be, like usually it's a little bit disadvantaged, like liquidity is worse, and the interest you pay is also usually worse than that you would in funding. Are you not buying the narrative that Bitcoin will pump before the halving and will dump after that? I'm just asking myself who won money. If you don't get an ETF approval, I don't think there's money to pump it. But I could be wrong. So for me, it's all hinging on the ETF approval. So yeah. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll call it a night because it's getting late. That's also the reason why nearly every German perp trader left Germany. Yes. Why are altcoins bleeding? Because there's no one to buy them. Like, this is something that I've talked about a lot, right? So basically, when volumes are low, right, you have these altcoins, and something that people don't realize is that almost all of these altcoins are inflationary, right? So you have a coin. I mean, Bitcoin technically still inflationary, right? You get block rewards. The same is true for almost everything. And some of these, like Doge, for example, are infinite. Doge is gonna keep inflating away forever. And a lot of these coins inflate at a rate of 5 to 10% each year. The devs are just kind of like unlocking coins, dumping on you, whatever. So what you have to, like, for these coins to stay at the same level, right? Like to go sideways, you have to have money flowing in, because there's a constant over like every year, there's a constant 5 to 10% sell pressure from the devs or from whoever controls it, or even from the miners that dump on you, right? So technically you have like this 5 to 10% sell pressure, and to maintain sideways, you have to have people that buy enough to do that. And when volumes are dead, there's way too many coins for people to just kind of like buy in. So those coins just inflate away. It's the same as your dollar that gets worth less when you have inflation. And when people are talking like, oh, the dollar is so bad, it has like 5% inflation this year or whatever, what they don't realize is that these shitcoins are even worse, right? So not only are you inflating away in value on your shitcoin versus the dollar, you're also inflating away on your dollar versus what you like your goods basically that you could have bought. So you get doubly fucked. But so basically, when volumes are dead, altcoins will bleed. You will see a bunch of narratives pop up. We have a pump or two, like singular pumps, just because people are bored and people are chasing narratives. But overall, the market will bleed. And that is just because you have a little bit of selling pressure. And when there's not much volumes, don't get me wrong, right? Like a coin that goes down 90%, like what people think is that when they see something like this, it goes up and then it goes down 90%, they're like, oh, there must have been so many people that have made a bunch of money selling this basically. And this is like people realizing their winnings. But when there's very little buy pressure, right? Like everyone could have still held all the way. And this is something that you could try yourself. Like when you have a coin that is very liquid, you can buy this up all the way to the top, and then you can not sell it. And then like a tiny amount of selling, right? If there's no buying, can drive this price all the way back down. So you're basically in the situation where like this 5% sell pressure that you have from inflation in the altcoins can drive price down by 50% easily if there's just no one that's willing to buy. So you don't even have to have a lot of realized winnings or whatever, or realized losses to drive price down. It's just a lack of buyers basically. And yeah, that's the kind of situation we're in right now. Like I said, money is not as easy to come by. People are not willing to risk as much. And then you are like talking about completely made up coins that have no utility, that are not allowed to have a utility, right? Otherwise it's security. And then you get bleeding altcoins. And that's just kind of makes sense, no? But if you have a trading company, you can trade perps in Germany. Yes, you can. But that's like a bunch of, you have to keep like very, very good track of whatever you're trading and why you're doing it. You're very handsome. Thank you, Don. Okay, thank you. I don't know what my looks have to do with it, but I appreciate the comment nonetheless. My weekly dose of depression, thanks, Don. I mean, I'm not trying to. It's just how the market is right now, and that can change quickly, right? Just need the S&P super cycle. If that keeps going up, maybe you have a chance. Anyway, that's it. I think we talked about everything that needs to be talked about. TLDR, like I said at the beginning of the show, the ETF denial is gonna make or break this thing. If you get a delay, the ETF approval or denial or whatever, if you get a delay, try to buy the dump. If it's too aggressive, if it's a slow bleed, you don't want to buy that. Then you want to buy 20K. If it's an approval, anything that is lower than 10% of a chat candle, I think that's still a good buy. And if it's a denial, I mean, very, very unlikely, but then buy 19 point something K, I think. I think that's all that you really need to do. Altcoins look across the board shit. I don't really see a trade anywhere, not in ETH, not in anything else. And yeah, that's basically it. We're news traders now, and we need to pray that the S&P goes up. So there you go. Don, you went over the denial scenario twice there. Yeah, I bet it's the most unlikely one. Don't get me wrong. Like, don't read anything into it. I don't think we get. If you ask me, I don't think we get getting a denial. Like, it's almost impossible. Like, I give it like 10% at best. I think it's less than 10% that we're gonna get it denied. Do you vape? Nope. Well, that's that. Love you guys. Hope you have an excellent evening, morning, midday, whatever time it is on your end of the planet. Big shout out for Woo, to Woo for sponsoring the show. They do cool stuff. You should go check them out. The links are in the description, and we'll see each other relatively soon. Much love. Bye bye.